Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We're here today to talk to you about India's radio landscape. So we'll be taking you through the history and all of that. So we're going to start then where history and where it all began. So it started in 1927 with the Indian Broadcasting Company, and they had receivers in both Mumbai and Calcutta. Now in 1930 it became the Indian Broadcasting Service when it was nationalised by the government. They basically took control of it in a very similar fashion to how the BBC were taken control of, or became independent, I should say. And they became a non-profit organisation. That's how it was similar. In 1936 it became the All India Radio, which it still remains so today, and that's the present day logo. And in 1956 it became known as Akashvani, which literally translates to voice from the sky. Now All India Radio is available to 99% of the Indian population, and this is a little clip from their station or their programming.
नमस्कार, आकाशवाणी से प्रस्तुत है समाचार संध्या।
Very dramatic.
भारत.
So we're going to skip forward to this 1990 now, and both Shania and Francesca will be talking about more about All India Radio a little bit later on. But we're going to skip forward to 1990, and as I said, the others will be filling in a bit more later. But there was this act called the Prasar Bharati Act, which basically was passed that gave control of All India Radio and Doorshadam, which was the TV network, to this brand new company called the Prasar Bharati. So basically meant the government were no longer in control of it, and they just regulated it basically. Again, very similar to how the BBC are owned by BBC Trust and regulated by Ofcom. They became independent basically, and we're now under this Prasar Bharati company. And it wasn't until 1997 until the bill came into force and was implemented across India. So this is the first two pages of the Prasar Bharati Act, as specified by the Prasar Bharati and the government. The first page sort of specifies the Act, what it's all about, and the fact it's called Prasar Bharati Act. And the second page has a number of terms as to what can be specified within the Act, and also the fact that this company is going to be called Prasar Bharati. So in terms of sort of FM radio, it wasn't until 2001 when we started to see the development of it. And Radio City was the first FM private station in India, broadcast on 91 megahertz, 0.1 megahertz, and it's listened to in 20 cities across India. And both Shania and Francesca will be talking to you a little bit more later on. Now I spoke to David Lloyd, who's a very famous radio historian and broadcaster. He's written a number of books about radio, and I spoke to him on Twitter, would you believe? And this is what he had to say to me about radio in India. So this is what he said. He sort of spoke about sort of the power of the radio, and also the fact about this favourable licensing regime for community stations, which I found quite interesting, and made me think a little bit about how Indian radio is sort of regulated and how community stations have to apply to be a part of the spectrum. So I did a bit of research, and these are two very important people. They are part. Well, the guy on the left there is Narendra Modi, and he is the 14th and current serving Prime Minister of India. And the guy on the right there is Rajay Varadhantor, who is the Minister of Information and Broadcasting. So he basically owns the India's version of Ofcom, effectively, and yeah, they're in control of it, and they have all they're in charge of all the rules and all the laws that govern broadcasting in India, and are also part of making sure that the community stations do want to apply in the right manner. So their website has a number of documents in regards to compliance, and this is one of them here. This was a document that was sent to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting from the people behind the country's election, and they basically were complaining about advertisements of a political nature, and basically were reminding the broadcasting, or reminding the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting about how it could have an impact on the power on the people, effectively. So that's all I've got. We're going to now go to Shania, who's going to talk to you about the ministry. He's going to talk to you about broadcasting institutions.
So hi, I'm Shania Cole, and I'll be talking to you about broadcasting institutions. So first of all, I'd like to start off with the definition, and it is a public service broadcaster aimed to communicate, transmit numerous recipients imitated of a community network. Basically, the people of India believed that radio was public property and the airwaves belonged to them. All India Radio was under government control, and there was a question, they didn't know if the airwaves were going to be misused. So this is when the Prasar Bharati Act came in and emphasised bringing change to people's lives. I'll talk about this more when I go on to community radio, but All Indian Radio was the only news network in India until this change of rule. And due to the Prasar Bharati Act, it became less biased, but gave radio stations other stations a chance to grow. So So the emergence of commercial stations. So the Variety service of All Indian Radio was created in 1957 and rival Radio Ceylon, and it's one of Asia's biggest stations. They initially provided 15 to 17 days of entertainment, a mix of films, music, sketches, short plays, and interactive programs. The commercial radio stations didn't start till 1967, and there was 40 of the vivid variety stations, all known as the commercial broadcasting station, and they covered all across major cities and 97% of the Indian population. So here are some of the popular commercial FM stations that I found, and this was called Red FM 93.5, and it was launched in 2002, and it has a mixture of Hindi and English music. Now it's 100% Hindi, which I think they want to keep up with their culture, and also if English is not their predominant language, they're still keeping within their communities. And then you've got Fever, which is 104 FM, which was started in 2006 and was in Delhi, Mumbai, Bangladesh, and it's very youthful and creative and interactive, and they play a lot of music and drama too. And I think it's nice that they are youthful because they're getting in touch with the younger audience, and I think it's important to push radio for the younger people. Here is a quote, and I got this from Ambika Soni, and I got this quote from the Commendment 2011 Ministry of Information and Broadcasting website for the community radio stations in India. And as you can see by this quote, I like how she talks about there's 1.2 billion people in India, and it connects them all. Radio is such a powerful medium that it connects all these people who are from maybe these marginalised countries who don't know how to use literacy, and they've only had voice. They can only understand through words rather than writing or reading. So community radio stations. Basically, obviously, it was questioned by the people, and obviously the people believe that it belonged to them. And what I like about this is that they believe in three things, which is commercial radio stations should stand for non-profit making, community ownership, and giving a voice to those people, especially for those who can't write and are part of these communities where they've got no contact with the outside world, and it gives those communities an entrance of identity and brings these people together. And now we'll move on to Fran.
Hi, I'm Francesca, and I'm going to be talking about music and speech radio in India. As Nick previously said, Radio City 91.1 FM was one of the first and the oldest dedicated private broadcaster and leading music radio station, which can now also be accessed online from www.planetradiocity.com. Here's a quote from their website, which is basically their mission statement, which translated to me that Planet Radio City's philosophy is to connect with people across the country on an emotional level as well. Okay, so I made this little diagram to explain who's owned by who from the colourful circles. So Radio City is part of Music Broadcast Limited that was founded in 1999, and that's a subsidiary of Jagram Prakasham Limited, which has been running for 15 years, reaching 50 million listeners in over 20 cities. Radio City is developed from being purely a music radio station that plays mainly Hindi and regional music to gaining magazine-style radio show elements in the past few years. Radio City did this by introducing humour and game show concepts as well, by introducing the concept Baba Sher, Romance Agony Aunt, Love Guru, and competition reality show Radio City Super Singer, which I guess is a bit like our sort of X Factor that radio was. As we said, the main news radio station in India is public service broadcaster All India Radio. The station operates in line with terms set out by the aforementioned Pradar Bharati Act, which India's government privatised the radio broadcasting sector. As Shania touched on, India's radio broadcast news sector is a controversial subject. News involves everyone in the community, and the radio is the most accessible type of media, it means that many people in India have seen this as unfair and not as informative as it could be. It's risen a varied source selection because they've only got, like, it's been prioritised on, so yeah, not many people can really put as much stuff out on it as they would like to. In 2011, to meet in the middle with the community radio and Expand FM in India, it was decided that small community radio stations may rerun the news from All India Radio, but they couldn't actually change it or add anything to it. It just had to be exactly the same. So it'd just be like if Sky News put out a story, we'd have to say it exactly the same on every single channel, with like not one word out of place. And then this quote explains how FM has developed between 1993 and 2000 and how this has affected India's radio landscape through music and news broadcasting to the current day. Thank you very much.
Right, so I'm Danny. I'm going to be doing technology, so I'll begin by talking about how Indian radio is broadcast, how listeners interact, and how technology starts to give Indian listeners different ways to listen in. I'll be using like different examples from different stations as well. So in 1956, the Rural Radio Forums Initiative was born, with village radio forums being created where locals would listen into like an half-an-hour informative show, and then they would discuss the content of the programme. The theme of the experiment was listen, discuss and act. But this sort of coincided in 1957 the emergence of the transistor radio, which meant that more Indian people could listen in. Therefore, it had a positive impact on the local community. So, I've just found this little. So, ASA Radio's listeners' research report said more than 64% of people listen to radio every day. So it's not as much as some of the other examples, but I think it's a bit. Radio's not as accessible as it will because there's a lot of poverty in India as well. But it does highlight the importance of radio in Indian society. An important part is community radio stations in India, and that's what they. I've got a good example here of it. So, community stations in India have actually got bigger and bigger because software is easier for them to access. With technology now developing at a quicker rate, it means that there's professional and more affordable software available to community stations. GRINS is an affordable software that allows community radio stations to set up and they can manage complex station management tasks. An example of how community stations have used this software to their advantage is Gurgaon Idol, which is a bit like, it's like an American Idol sort of thing, but it was a folk like version of it. So like contestants would be played out on the radio, and then listeners would then text in and ring an automated like service, and they would vote for who they wanted to win. So, and India is bracing itself for the switch to digital now. Keeping with the government's decision to move to digital by the end of 2017, so All India Radio, which is the Indians version of BBC basically, is switching over in a phased manner. The technology which is being used is Digital Radio Mondial, or DRM, with the aim to have a fully digitised stations by the end of the year. So I'm going to look at how listeners can start to interact in different ways. So as Fran touched on before about Radio City, they seem to be like the pioneer, shall we say. They're pushing things forward. They've used a great example of a successful show and creating another avenue for which its listeners can interact. The Love Guru app, which is like an agony uncle show, it's a late night show. Basically, listeners can get the app, they can share their relationship stories and problems with the show's agony uncle, which creates a bond between the show and its audience. And then Radio City are also pushing forward podcasts in India. So Radio City's Freedom Station also utilises podcasts, a station which tries to give independent artists a voice, asking artists to send in their own music / work to get some airplay. A podcast which I found, which seems pretty popular, is the Open Mic podcast, The format of this podcast is that it follows an artist which is featured previously. So listeners are invited to come down and perform a 5-minute piece to win a chance to be featured on the next podcast. So it starts off with like an interview with the person from the previous week, and then there'll be new contestants on it. So keeps giving an avenue for listeners to get involved with the show.
Wonderful. So that concludes our presentation on Indian radio. If you've got any questions for us, we'll do our best to answer them. But yeah, thanks for listening.